Are you ready for a super hard truth? Life experiences and our identity are far from predictable and, unfortunately, largely uncontrollable. Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Wackett. Thanks for joining me for another video as we work to empower and equip you with the confidence and skills to write your own story so that you can live your life on purpose. Today we're talking about our story, the parts we're born into or happen to us, and the parts we can control. I couldn't control the fact that I was born without a dad. I couldn't control that my mom struggled with an insidious brain disorder that went undetected for years. I couldn't control the drug addiction that ensued in the heartache of her illness, or that it landed her in jail and away from me for a significant part of my childhood. I couldn't prevent the trauma I endured or the onset of my anxiety disorder or eating disorder. We're a product of the intersection of our genes and our environment, navigating our lives as best we can. But the idea that we have no control over many aspects of our lives is something harder to grapple with than the difficulties themselves. We assume fault or question what we could have done to fix or change an outcome. We try to outsmart or confuse our genetics, believing that if we try hard enough, that difficult thing will disappear. But these parts of us are there, and we have to embrace who we are and what we've endured to grow within and beyond our adversities. I first realized this in high school, standing at the podium during the National Honor Society induction banquet. As a part of the celebration, each student selected a teacher to speak about them and their character. Mrs. Vogt was my pick, a quirky, compassionate, and empowering woman who brought science to life. She saw our lives as something meaningful to honor and support. She was someone I trusted. She was someone I let into my story. I let her see the chapters in my life and uncover the pieces I tried for so long to pretend didn't exist. When she took to the mic, she shared some beautiful sentiments to and about me. But the one that stood out the most was the quote from Mulan: "The flower that blooms amidst adversity is the most rare and beautiful of all." Along with many amazing people in my life, she helped remind me of the worth, value, and possibilities I had within me, and that my arduous climb to normalcy didn't indicate failure. Disruptive and disarming experiences don't directly correlate with being broken or unfixable. It didn't mean that I was unlovable or unworthy. I couldn't pick my circumstances any more than someone else could, but I had every right to gain insight into their development, progression, and impact on me as they became clearer. With that, I could mold my circumstances to help them become a net positive for myself and the world around me. I could understand the adversities and opportunities that I experienced due to my identity and life circumstances, and translate that knowledge to a more collective voice and wisdom that could support others in their journey through adversity. Now, don't get me wrong, there's certainly a lot of privilege in my life. I was raised in a middle-class family. I'm heterosexual, well-educated, white-presenting, even though I'm Armenian, and the list could go on. I don't mean to suggest that everyone's journey is the same as mine, and to me, it's too difficult to assess harder versus easier anyways. It's all relative and too complex to determine. My purpose here is to remind you of your strength and empower you to do what you can within those intersections of genetics and environment. There are parts of people's identities constantly under scrutiny, and for whom it causes significant worry about their safety. And there is something to be said about being able to rework our narrative and our frame of references, to see our power, rights, and opportunities that we have and can create, even if they don't look like someone else's. The most challenging part is knowing when you do or don't have the power to control or change or shift an outcome. It's this fine line between what's in my orbit and what's beyond it. I can't change or undo what's happened in my life. I can't mold the people around me to be the versions of themselves that would, in my opinion, allow them to live their best life possible. But I can choose how I label my experiences and both what I take from and do after them. My eating disorder sold itself to me as a solution to help manage my trauma in difficult times. And it worked, for some time at least. And when I could finally separate from the lies it had told me for so long, I learned to live without it. But looking back on all that, I can't change it. I had one. I hated it. I had to fight like heck to let it go. And I will forever have a different view of my body and the world because of it. And contrary to what I believed for years, that doesn't make me a bad person or weak for going through that. Instead, it's an opportunity for me to do my job better, see the world from a different lens, and support the growth and transition others make from living a life with to without their eating disorder. Now let's pause for a second and reflect. What pieces of your identity developed out of your control, both genetics and environmental? How has it impacted you, positively, negatively, and neutrally? What barriers were created for you based on those pieces of your identity or experience? How have your experiences in life helped you gain greater empathy or connection to others? What has your relationship with control been up to this point? How can you remind yourself what is and isn't in your control? How can that extend to empathy towards others? So, for example, my mom's struggle with an undiagnosed mental illness and subsequent drug addiction gave me a greater understanding and compassion for people with substance use, particularly with traumatic backgrounds. It also made me think differently about our social justice system and to think more critically about how it's been built on a system of isms. It's also essential to extend this point a bit deeper into interpersonal relationships and the idea of control, choice, and circumstances. I didn't choose my family. I didn't choose where I lived. I couldn't control, as a kid, the trauma and abuse that I endured. Unfortunately, I couldn't control my proximity to the people in my family and surrounding community for a long time. But that didn't have to stop me from nurturing my gifts, abilities, and dreams. It didn't have to mean that I stopped working as hard as I could to create the life that I wanted, even if they didn't, and in some cases, still don't want it or support it for me. We're born into a narrative. The family, community, and cultural expectations surrounding and shaping us. And for many, this narrative may fit or be based on cultural beliefs. It goes unchallenged. For me, and many of you, it's fear that keeps us complacent. If connection and belonging are what we strive for, what does it say that we don't feel connected to our families? Again, it comes back to choice and control. Being born into a system or family structure doesn't mean I have to uphold a role they put on me. But it's much harder to see that choice and separation without seeing failure, something I think I'll have to work on for the rest of my life. But as I continue to do this climb, I'm learning more and more about my truth. I'm disentangling myself from the negative hold. My family and others around me had and have their perceptions, expectations, etc., and creating the life I know I deserve and will have the biggest impact on those around me possible. By taking myself seriously and establishing my own worth, separate from people who no longer or never served me, difficult experiences, and trauma, I can better believe in myself. And it has an exponential impact on my willingness and ability to be a part of and or lead the change I want to see in myself, my community, and the world. So now I leave it to you. Let us know in the comments. What stories have you been written into that don't align with what you want, need, or who you are? How can you begin to separate from them? We're the authors of our life. So as you begin to think about taking more control and autonomy in your life direction, what do you see as the title of your book? How can you use that title to empower you every day as you fill the pages with your story, not everyone else's interpretation of it? And be sure to check out the show notes to access some resources that can help take you deeper in this process of self-rooting and individuation. If you haven't joined the AR Insider yet, be sure to click a link in the show notes and get yourself on the list to get exclusive content and discounts that I don't share anywhere else, and stay in the know on all of the new content and projects that I'm working on. And if you like what you're hearing, give me that thumbs up and share this video with someone else you think could benefit from it. And if you want to stay on the know on all of my happenings on YouTube, click that subscribe button and get an alert every time new awesomeness is released. Thank you for being here with me today. Remember, you have the right to author your own story. So let's go get that pen back.